The man who meticulously documented each day with Barbra Streisand is currently dealing with his most difficult entry to yet. Following their 25th wedding anniversary, Barbra Streisand and James Brolin are facing their greatest obstacle, a devastating reality that has caused James to take a leave of absence from his work. In order to stay at home, he has even declined a large $2 million position. Millions of women worldwide are impacted by the covert battle that Barbra Streisand has been fighting for many years. The startling reality is that heart disease kills more women than all cancer combined, making it the leading cause of death for women. Consider this: heart disease and stroke will claim the lives of 1 in 3 women. This indicates that a lady loses her life nearly every 80 seconds. Numerous families suffer tragically as a result of this silent killer's frequent lack of awareness or misunderstanding. When it comes to heart health, women frequently receive inferior care than males, which makes the issue much worse. Sometimes doctors fail to recognize the warning signals of a heart attack or fail to provide the appropriate testing and care. The Yenel syndrome is the name given to this unequal treatment. When Barbra discovered these significant disparities in care, she was shocked and distressed. She came to the realization that, contrary to popular belief, heart disease was not exclusive to the elderly. Rather, it was a pervasive catastrophe that affected women of all ages, particularly African-American women and younger women. James Brolin is actually bidding farewell to portions of his own illustrious career, not to Barbra, because of this pervasive systemic health catastrophe. According to Hollywood insiders, James just declined a large acting part worth $2 million. All he did was stay at home and support Barbra, while she takes on the difficult task of promoting women's heart health. His choice demonstrates his strong support for her and her important cause. His decision is a blatant indication that their traditionally distinct bank accounts are now combining in a way that goes beyond money. There is a huge need for cash for research, awareness, and treatment facilities as Barbra advocates for this cause, and James is prepared to support her in covering the costs of this international battle. After 25 years of marriage, this is the biggest test they have faced. James's next chapter may be the most tragic, since he prioritizes his wife's mission to save women's lives over his own goals and professional aspirations. It is a potent demonstration of love and unity. We must examine Barbra's own journey in order to fully appreciate the tenacity and struggle she brings to this important cause. She transformed a life full with obstacles into victories. On April 24, 1942, Barbra Streisand was born in Brooklyn, New York. When Barbra was just 15 months old, her father, Emmanuel, a well-respected educator, died of a seizure. The family had to move in with her grandparents because they had very little money after his death, just $250 in savings. This early bereavement and financial hardship profoundly influenced Barbra, who never saw her father but later discovered a letter he wrote in her baby book that read, "I have a feeling this one is going to be special." For young Barbra, life did not get any easier. Her stepfather was aloof and once threatened to shatter her spirit, but her mother remarried. Barbra left home at the age of 16. She has nowhere to go and no money, occasionally dozing off on the couches of friends, an old computer, or even a fire escape during the summer. There were only 3 dresses, 2 pairs of shoes, and 12 records in the only bag she was carrying, which was taped together. She continued to study in diners and libraries, while maintaining perfect attendance at school. She only made $17 a week working part-time for 75 cents an hour. In order to avoid having to acknowledge her homelessness, she managed to make it last by going to see her mother twice a week, right before dinner. For 3 years she wore the same coat, mending it herself and even using spare costume materials to dye it a different color. This difficult time prepared her for the harsh world of Hollywood and her subsequent outspokenness by strengthening her resilience and sharpening her understanding of social issues. When Barbra was 18 years old in 1960, she was working as an usher at a theater and had seen The Sound of Music over 100 times. She rehearsed singing by herself at the theater before work and committed every scene to memory. After hearing her sing one evening, a stage manager assumed she was an understudy. She brazenly stated that she was auditioning, even though she wasn't. When he asked who she was, it was already obvious how determined she was. 2 days later, she was earning double her regular usher salary, $18 for her weekend performance in a nightclub. She had never taken a vocal lesson before. She gained knowledge by measuring echoes, drawing tiny groups, and singing in subways and stairwells. One producer frequently remarked that she had $1 million voice but a 5-cent face, or that she was too odd-looking, Even so, she performed Cry Me a River that evening, followed by a humorous rendition of Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. She received flawless points from the judges, a first for the club, when the audience fell silent and then applauded for almost 5 minutes. She demonstrated that skill did not have to conform to a standard of beauty. She boldly changed her name in 1961, deleting the second A to become Barbara, claiming that this made her stand out. She continued to sing the strange tunes she liked, maintained her Brooklyn accent, and declined cosmetic surgery. She demonstrated her persistent self-belief by choosing to manage her music and image, despite professional counsel to the contrary. Her debut album was issued by Columbia Records in 1963. They only printed 10,000 copies because they believed it would fail because it only had ballads and show tunes rather than hit songs. However, it sold 150,000 copies in a single month, exceeding forecasts. Barbara was in complete charge of the creative process. In defiance of all marketing advice at the time, she picked all the tracks herself and even turned down a color cover in favor of a straightforward black and white image. She famously defeated Frank Sinatra to win the Grammy for Album of the Year with this album. Her victory so infuriated several Grammy voters that they resigned. In 1964, Funny Girl had its Broadway debut after she famously stated in her brief acceptance speech, "This isn't luck. This is what happens when you don't listen to people who don't understand your vision." Barbara played Fanny Brice an astounding 867 times, missing only 2 performances while having pneumonia. Songs were composed especially for her to display her incredible gift, and her voice had a 3.5 octave range. She was wet by a broken sprinkler during one concert, yet she continued to sing. The director included this impromptu incident into the act, since he appreciated it so much. Barbara experienced extreme stage fright, the fear of losing her lines during her tenure in Funny Girl. This worry worsened after she lost the words during a 1967 performance. Her usually brazen persona was given a humanizing, vulnerable dimension by her anxiety, which prevented her from performing on stage for 27 years. Barbara got a $5 million TV contract with CBS for 10 specials in 1965, when she was barely 23 years old. She had total control under the deal. Her music must not be interrupted by advertising, and CBS was not allowed to make any changes without her consent. My Name is Barbara, her debut special, defied all the rules. The network executives were frightened when she began the broadcast singing by herself in the dark. However, 71% of those who watched TV that evening did so. The director eventually acknowledged that he simply followed her instructions, and she even edited the entire show herself, winning 5 Emmys. In 1968, Barbara Streisand left the Broadway stage and entered the world of film, playing the same character that made her famous on stage, Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. The movie gained enormous popularity and became the highest-grossing film of the year in the U.S. Because of the impact of her performance, Barbara won the Academy Award for Best Actress in her debut film. The fact that she tied with Katharine Hepburn, the only tie in that Oscar category ever, was even more startling. Her most difficult task, however, was directing Yentl, her debut film, in 1983. After 15 years and 12 studio rejections, she was ultimately granted a $14.5 million budget. She put forth an incredible amount of work on the production, often 20 hours a day. She even led a predominantly male workforce, while concealing herself in tight restraints. She proved all of the crew members who had even wagered that she would fail wrong. The film earned more than $40 million. Even after the movie's success, Barbara continued to be treated unfairly because of her gender. Due to the fact that she was a woman, one voter acknowledged that he would not cast his ballot for her. Only 0.5% of major studio films were directed by women at the time. Even though Yentl received positive reviews in 1984, Barbara was not nominated by the Golden Globes for main direction. Rather, they created a special prize for her, Best Director in a Comedy or Musical, which was eliminated the next year. At the ceremony, Barbara respectfully questioned this choice and inquired as to why she was left out. Congress eventually used her case as evidence of gender bias in Hollywood because it became so well known. She became a pioneer because of her persistent fight against gender bias throughout her career. Barbara made even more history in 1995. She became the first woman to receive the Directors Guild Award for television directing when she directed her HBO concert special. There were 223 camera setups, 125 crew people, and 11 cameras on the show. Throughout all of this, she battled debilitating stage fright, which was brought on by a 1967 performance in which she lost her words. For 27 years, this dread had prevented her from performing on stage. The special was a huge success, earning $93 million and drawing in 26 million viewers, despite her personal struggles. Barbara noted during the ceremony that women had only accounted for 3.7% of TV directing positions. She first fought the DGA on that same subject 25 years prior to her victory. On July 1996, Barbara Streisand and James Brolin went on a blind date. They were both in their mid-50s and had experienced difficult, unsuccessful relationships. James had recently dissolved his second marriage and owed $1.4 million, while Barbara had been divorced since 1971. They had canceled twice before being arranged by their friend Linda Bruckheimer. James was so anxious that he even took a Valium. Barbara was expecting a tough guy with a mountain man's beard. James, however, was clean-shaven for a different function. "Who messed up your hair?" was the first thing she said to him, and James was deeply offended. In 11 years, his ex-wife had never made any remarks about his appearance. He nearly left, but he stayed because of Barbara's eyes. In the end, they spoke for 6 hours, till 3:27 a.m. They discovered later that they were born in Los Angeles, only 3.4 miles apart. Barbara requested a lock of his hair that evening, which she still has framed in their house with a handwritten letter. After only 17 minutes of meeting him, she acknowledged that she felt he was different from the 28 blind dates she had gone on in the previous 3 years. Barbara had been secretly engaged to another man when they first met, something James was unaware of at the time, and only disclosed in her biography years later. After their 5th date, she ended things. James made 3 attempts to pop the question. The first took place in a hot air balloon over Napa Valley, 87 days after they first met. He presented her with a $250,000 diamond weighing 3.9 carats. Barbara, however, refused. Following a negative experience with a previous fiancé, she was under a 2-year rule. Her early rejections, which were based on trauma from the past, demonstrate how carefully and purposefully they establish trust. On New Year's Eve 1997, he made his second proposal in New York. In front of 14 of her friends, he knelt down and played her favorite song from childhood. Once more, she refused. James's continuous suggestions, which finally resulted in a very intimate letter, show his unwavering dedication to and comprehension of Barbara's need for deep connection. Finally, the third time worked. On March 15, 1998, she was having a picnic at her house in Malibu. He handed her a 24-page letter this time, listing 98 reasons why they should be together. On July 1998, precisely 2 years after their first date, they were married. The wedding took place at Barbara's house in Malibu and cost $1.4 million. The level of security was very high. Visitors and employees were required to sign non-disclosure agreements, with $250,000 fines for any violations. And there were 37 guards and a no-fly zone. At 8:47 p.m., the ceremony got underway. The precise moment they met, 15,000 orchids and white roses were flown in from 4 different nations. Tom Hanks, Oprah Winfrey, the Clintons, and Marlon Brando were among the well-known attendees. James wore an Armani suit with diamond cufflinks, while Barbara wore a gown with a 27-foot train. A children's choir from Barbara's charity played a song she penned for the wedding, "I Finally Found You." James spoke at the reception at 11:43 p.m. that contained 273 words. It was framed by Barbara. "Every night is a new adventure," he remarked. "I can't wait to see her again in the morning. Sleeping is a waste of time." He also disclosed that Barbara helped him overcome his sleeplessness, a condition he had struggled with for 27 years. They had spent 642 nights together prior to the wedding, solving crossword puzzles, reading poetry in bed, and reminiscing about things they had never discussed with anyone else. As an inside joke, James even studied a piano piece he dubbed Barbara's Lullaby in private, misreading her name. Later, according to John Travolta, James had kept a journal detailing their daily activities together, which he intended to present to her on their 25th wedding anniversary. In 2023, they accomplished that milestone. James and Barbara practiced what they called bifurcation, keeping their money in different bank accounts from the beginning of their marriage. After losing $3 million in his second divorce, James came up with this notion. Every Tuesday, he claimed, they even divide the cost of dinner. This helped maintain equality, because Barbara was valued $400 million and James was worth $60 million. They had $800,000 for the house in a single account. James claimed in a 2023 interview that this arrangement prevented the financial disputes that destroyed previous Hollywood marriages. They became more closer during the COVID-19 lockdown. Despite the difficulties faced by many couples, they fell in love again and stayed together for 425 consecutive nights. They woke up at 6:45 a.m., made breakfast, and meditated as part of their regular ritual. Each of the 37 puzzles they completed represented a potential year of marriage. They even acted out parts in costume while watching The Crown and Bridgerton twice. During lockdown, they also kept a $278-page journal, which James suggested would eventually be turned as a memoir. Their headquarters, which they dubbed the boardroom, was a $35,000 Swedish mattress. It had places for documents and cushions that could be used as laptop stands, as well as unique support settings for both of them. From that bed, they made important career choices. While resting there, Barbara even composed songs for her 2018 album. For $175,000, their bedroom was soundproofed. James added that the majority of their most brilliant thoughts originated in that peaceful area. Barbara and James had a unique method for resolving conflicts. They went on walks. They were quite strict. They strolled around their 3.2-acre estate in opposing directions, without phones, and taking deep breaths every 30 steps. They would return after 17 minutes and record their feelings in their journals. At least 217 times, they employed this technique. They once went on 7 walks over 3 days in 2019, following a dispute over Barbara's book. They would want separate walking lanes from hotel staff even when they were on vacation. According to James, walking allowed their brains to spontaneously solve issues and relax. James and Barbara have demonstrated that true partnership entails overcoming life's greatest obstacles together, from their separate journeys of perseverance to a love tale based on distinctive roots. Particularly when millions of lives are at stake in that struggle. Barbara Streisand is still fighting for the heart health of women. She continues to advocate for more research and improved care, utilizing her notoriety and voice to change things. Her entire narrative, including her battles against injustice and stage fear, is chronicled in her 2023 memoir, My Name is Barbara. She continues to be active in 2025, working on new projects and songs. But her love for women's heart health is still very much a part of who she is. At 83, James Brolin is still acting and narrating, but his priorities have changed. His choice to resign from a $2 million position is a potent testament to his love and commitment to Barbara and her important work. In addition to being her spouse, he supports her in her struggle for gender equality and healthcare, and as a partner in her goal. They are able to tackle this enormous task together because of their special bond, which is based on openness, rituals, and a great deal of respect. James Brolin's ongoing career and his readiness to put Barbara's advocacy first demonstrate a mature partnership in which personal goals are balanced by a common goal. His departure from some professional trajectories represents a deep and proactive support for his wife's battle against the devastating diagnosis that affects millions of people, rather than a retreat.